Welcome to this episode of Unapologetic Leadership, where I have Sal, who is the founder and CEO of RxGPT Health. Welcome, Sal.
Welcome, Cory. It's great to be part of your podcast. My pleasure, my honor. I'm really honored to be here.
Awesome. Yeah, I appreciate that. So tell us, what do you do and how do you serve the world?
Right. So, just to tell you, concise way, I own this company, founded this and lead this company called RxGPT Health. It's a healthcare AI startup based in California, Los Angeles, right? And what we do is that now every hospital today has the same individual crisis, like doctors and nurses spending 30 to 40% of their time on paperwork instead of patients. Revenue teams drowning in 50 to 20 layer of portal system that cannot talk to each other, right? So that's kind of kind of wasting a lot of time. Also, doctors and hospitals not able to save lives, right? Now, as the patients who still fill in the same form 5 to 6 times, so we at RxGPT, we fix that now, not on another chatbot. We are an intelligent AI operating system that automates the hospital operations, and so that doctors can focus on patients, and all the admin work, operation work can be done by us. So just to summarize in one line, we make hospitals smarter so that doctors can focus on what really matters, which is patients.
Yeah, no, I think that's extremely important, especially as tech it gets bigger and bigger and gets more prevalent. Now there's new systems to understand and new different systems that need to communicate, like you were saying, that you allow them to connect so they're more productive, they're more efficient, and they're doing, most importantly, what they're there for as medical professionals. So, no, that's a great thing. So you told me too that you work while we were offline, that you work in many different countries, or you've gotten data from many different countries. Can you share some about that?
Absolutely. So RxGPT is kind of, we have like target segments across 4 countries like US, UK, Africa, also India and GCC. Because of ongoing war is kind of halted in GCC, countries like UAE and all. But we are launching this product across 4 countries right now. We are already active in Nigeria, a couple of hospitals, clinics in Africa. We're launching in UK and also then India, and then it's going to be US, right? Now, the challenge, I'll tell you in summarize that a lot of compliances. For example, hospital healthcare is a regulated industry, right? So GDPR compliances, HIPAA compliances, right? That is the right on getting the data in healthcare is very, very difficult. You can go to ChatGPT, get a generic data about politics, about what's happening in the world, but to get the hospital data, we cannot do that, right? So it's very difficult to get the data. So unless we have the model, I would say there is an NDA in place, unless the hospital is agreed to share the data, we cannot train the model on public data. That is where right now the focus for us is to train the entire LLM model by launching as a pilot across all the hospitals, so that the doctors, the nurses, the hospital admins, the staff members, the more they use it, the more the LLM will learn, right? Unlike any other, let's say any other industries where the data is publicly available, healthcare is not. Also, there are a lot of clauses. So right now, the team's goal is to launch it as a pilot across all these hospitals, let the doctors use it, and the LLM learn from the usage. And the more it learns, more it improves the accuracy, right? So that's the kind of thing we are working right now.
Mm-hmm. And then share, how did you get into healthcare? Why healthcare?
Yeah, that's a great question. It started from I would say, many founders or CEOs, they start with a vision, with an entire strategy, business plan. Mine was entirely different. It was a personal calling, right? I'll tell you, during COVID, 2020 or 2021, when the Delta wave started, me, my brother, my wife, all of us were severely affected. We are quarantined. We are in the same hospital, right? And the next day, I think we spent around 3 to 4 days. The next day, when I woke up, I didn't see my brother. So we lost him, right? Now, when I went back, after when I got well, everything was fine. When when I wanted to find the root cause, they said that there was no medicine available, there was no medication, there's nothing available, his data was not there, all these things were missing, right? So the primary cause, it might be because of all these things. The primary cause was that there was nothing. The hospitals were not well equipped or well things to like take care of her, right? So it became like a personal vision for me, right? How can I, if the hospital like that having such a problem, how can I solve this using AI, right? Can I use AI to make sure that hospitals have all the data, all information, everything? So during COVID, everything was chaotic. They were just getting admitted, but no one knew that about anything. And nothing was in a proper structured way, right? And I thought, can I use AI? Can I use the skills I have gained to solve this root level problem? So that's how our journey started in the healthcare. Although I worked in healthcare sector for a couple of times, but that was more into like being a corporate employee, not as an entrepreneur, right? And then I started searching all these things, speaking to hospitals, that why when a patient is in a need, nobody is prohibiting to save him. So they said that we don't have data. All these prescriptions is manual or written on paper, so we're not able to see his past records and everything. So when the systems collapse, let's say like it's COVID or war, no one has the data, right? All these files, everything is gone, right? So they said no. The primary reason why healthcare is failing in this industry, in this kind of areas or maybe countries or cities is that because we don't have access to information, access to data, access to structured data in a proper way. So I thought, can I solve it using AI? Let's say a patient comes in suddenly, any kind of emergency, right? And the admin is trying to figure out his blood group, his past health records, asking his family members to WhatsApp me, send me his health record. Whereas imagine there is something system that has stored, say, the data from last 10 years, right? And you just go to that ChatGPT, type in, Mr. Cory is in hospital and I want to see his last 10 years records. Now that system sends you everything with one prompt. Now see, during the emergency, how it can save lives, right? Whereas in the first case, you're trying to ask your family relatives to send the records, see all the data. Whereas in this case, everything is there on your one prompt, right? So one prompt can save a lot of lives. So I thought instead of you solving big tech problems, can I solve this big healthcare problem, right? So that's how my journey started with RxGPT. It was a personal calling. From there, I picked up. Now we are here, almost product ready to be rolled out to across all these hospital clinics.
Yeah, and I find that with probably a lot of entrepreneurs these days, and they have something that personally affects them that goes very deep, and when, in your case, like a family member, and that's when it really settles in to say, ooh, there's a huge problem here, and we weren't able to get answers immediately with things going on, so how can we improve this, hopefully while our loved one is still here, but if not, many people still continue on to say, hey, if this is going to help somebody else, then we definitely want to pursue and move this so nobody else's family members have to experience this type of, we don't have an answer. We don't have an answer.
Right. It's there. I mean, you'll be shocked. All the hospitals, are highly tech hospitals, highly tech, they have all the equipment, but they don't have access to data. They don't know who is patient is coming in there. They are kind of clueless what is happening during the admission, during discharge, during claim processing. No one knows what's happening, right? And especially during the crisis, when the patient is in the kind of emergency state, right? Difficult for the hospitals to get all information in one minute, right? And imagine that the system that can get you all the data, everything with one prompt, it can save so many lives, right? And we are using AI to trading. We are using AI in war. Cloud is being used in war. So why not use AI to save lives? So that's the primary purpose of this activity. That how can we use AI to save lives? Right? Not about it's not about. Of course, the company always wants to make money. That's a tertiary goal. The primary goal, the purpose is that how can we use AI to save lives? That's why RxGPT always started from a personal aspiration, but now it has become a wider vision for us, for the entire company.
No, I think that's amazing too, because recently at our home, some of our insurance has, I think it's Blue Cross Blue Care Network, has just said that they potentially may not be in partnership with the University of Michigan Hospital
Right.
because University of Michigan wants to make sure their doctors, their staff, their nursing, all of them are getting paid appropriately rather than being reduced in payment from Blue Cross Blue Shield. So they're still talking, but they say potentially in the next 2-3 months it may be that Blue Cross Blue Shield no longer covers U of M, so they're giving people some alternative hospital systems to go to if this disruption happens. And I can see as a part of this, when you're talking about saving lives and improving those rates because of the speed of accurate information,
Absolutely.
this can be huge in the viability of why, if let's say University of Michigan has this technology, why would you want to take them out of the system and pay them less when they're actually doing a greater value to society? So yeah.
Absolutely. It has many use cases, not just claims, lab report. Let's say lab report, right? Now very difficult to know. I mean, for a doctor, for a hospital, I mean, seeing his lab report in the last 1 year, 2 years, it's very difficult for them to diagnose the entire thing right now. With this system, we have a RAG system where all these lab reports are uploaded, right? When you just write in one query, show me this patient lab report from last 10 years or 1 year or 5 years, let me know what the issue is facing, right? So this AI can check this database from the kind of use a RAG system to check all the lab reports, and then check with with all this open LLMs or Gemini LLMs, and tell the doctor, okay, this is exactly the he might be facing. So imagine that the kind of time the doctor would need to conclude or at least derive to a conclusion, right? To go through all these things. Now he can at least get some idea about it within 5 minutes or 2 minutes, right? Or even 1 minute, right? So the kind of speed and the kind of things I'm bringing to the hospital, to doctors, helping them to diagnose the disease, kind of doing that. That's really fantastic. Imagine medical imaging, right? If you say the cancer cell, right? If you print one cancer cell, if you just print it, it will be the size of maybe 10-story building on a paper, right?
Yep.
That is why the diagnosing cancer is very difficult, because the cell is so huge. Even if you're trying to diagnose it, it will take so many years. Now, medical AI imagining, we can not possible to diagnose 100%, but at least you would be able to figure out where the issue is, right? So it can save so many lives, right? So it has lot many applications, not just booking, claims, lab reports, diagnosing your disease, right? So it's a well thought, strategic thing that they are doing. Both helpful to patients and doctors in their lives, and improving the speed and efficiency of healthcare.
Yeah, no, I think that's great, because I think like in stroke cases, like with my mom had a stroke and passed away from that 12 years ago, and it's all about the speed. It's like, okay, when did this stroke happen? When did they fall ill? And then how quickly can we start the procedures if there's enough time before the body cells die or whatever, whatever the technical terms are. But speed is of the essence, and once again, with accurate, good data that's structured, that can give you some really good potential solutions and next steps, the most important ones. Yeah. So
and data is everything. Data is understanding healthcare. Data is everything, right? And we are wearing Apple Watch. Why? Just to track data, right? So I imagine a tool like that can analyze data and give you at least I'll tell you honestly, in medical, nothing is accurate. It's not possible to accurate because doctors know everything, but at least it can give you some information that can be helpful for you to derive to a conclusion, right? So we are helping doctors and hospitals that kind of information so that it's helpful for them to take a decision, right? So we're not taking a decision, right? Because no LLM or healthcare, to be honest, cannot predict the way doctors can do, because it always comes from experience, right? But at least the kind of information they need to take a decision, we're helping them with that, right? So that kind of really, expedites, speeds up the, kind of cure process. So that's what we are doing.
Yeah, no, that's great. And I would assume as you were developing this technology for the healthcare system, you've come across some challenges. So are there
Many,
things yeah, many challenges. Can you
many
share
challenges.
how
Right,
you
right.
kind of stay aligned with your vision on
Yeah,
accomplishing
yeah,
what you're
yeah,
trying to do?
yeah,
How do you
yeah.
stay
Many
aligned
challenges.
when you have challenges? Yeah.
Right, right. I'll tell you, first challenge was data, because hospital data is confidential. You go to any small clinic, any hospital, especially in the US, all these regulations, everything is on compliance, right? And without a data, it's difficult to train the models, right? Difficult to train them. Even if you take some public random data, it won't be able to train the models, do those fine tuning of LLMs properly, right? You need the proper data, right? First challenge that we face is that it's an agentic AI. It entirely relies on the LLM, also how we use it on the data, right? So first challenge was always getting the data, right? So, and now how we overcome that, we went to the hospitals, the clinics, showed them our models. We told them we use the tool for free of cost, although we are burning money on tokens because tokens are expensive. That's why ChatGPT, OpenAI are kind of raising valuations, so raising money because tokens are expensive, right? Every
Yeah.
token you use on OpenAI or GCP or any token you use is super expensive. So we told that we are going to make losses, no issues. Use it, let your team use it. So that's how. So initially the challenge was first getting the data. We kind of send
Yeah.
this to free of cost to them. Let them use that, and then that data we use to train our model. So first
Yeah.
was getting the data. So we kind of when your vision is clear, you don't think of profits, right? You think of whether I'm making a loss, doesn't matter, but the vision should not be compromised, right? So that is why for initially for 2 to 4 months we made so many losses, but we went on with that, and that kind of helped us to overcome that that MVP to version 1 to version 2 to the product. So number one learning: never think of profits from the day one. Never think of that, because if you are always money oriented, profit oriented, then you will not be able to achieve the larger vision. See
Yeah.
Amazon, right? It was not profitable from initial for 10 years, right? Now it's a big company, right? Likewise, if when you're aspiring a big vision, you should never be, money oriented or making a profit oriented from day one, right? Always try to focus on the vision. That will guide you in the right direction. That's what my first learning, I would say, in terms of challenges from that.
Yeah, that's huge because I know a lot of people, as they've started way more businesses since the pandemic, people want to have that profit. I want to make a ton of money. I know I can make a ton of
Right,
money,
right, right.
but in that case, they may be focusing a little too much on that rather than the long-term vision,
Yeah.
as you said, which guides all of our choices and decision making, and really reaching that goal of serving people. Because if you're
Right,
not
right.
ultimately serving people, or there's no value to it, it's not going to be a long-term business anyway.
Right, right, right. Because
Yeah.
those long-term business, when you want to make an impact on the society, you have to compromise, on all these things, right? You cannot simply think that if like that from the day one itself, I should be making a profit. Then you cannot make an impact. You are always building a short-term business, maybe some kind of Ponzi scheme, make some money, then just disappear. But if you want to solve the community, make a big impact, you have to think towards your vision, overall purpose, and not towards that I should be making money profitable from there. So that's the kind of learning I have.
Right.
But yeah, I understand other businesses might have different perspective, but that's my learning. That instead of money, think of the purpose and impact, and I'm sure you would go on and go along.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's great. And do you feel like there's any point in time where you've made a big move where maybe you weren't quite certain? And what else did you learn from that?
Yeah. That actually I did. Right. So initially, when we started RxGPT Health, right? So the big move was in between, when we were almost, I would say around 6 to 7 months there. Initially, I thought I should start raising funds. To be honest, it's the first time for me like being an entrepreneur, a full kind of professional entrepreneur. Previously, I was working, I was doing some side hustles, but never was like focusing as an entrepreneur, right? So I thought the big move should be, right now, into VC. And even before making a product, making a MVP, I thought I should go and approach a VC to raise money, right? Now, when I did that, right, that kind of taught me a big lesson, right? And I approached VCs because I know I've known them, many of them, my close network, vicinity, I've known them for a long time. When I approached them, right, they told me one thing, right? Right now, your product is not ready. You have not even, one customer. You are not even one I would say one validation, right? The least thing you should be thinking is to approach a VC. So that was the biggest wrong decision that I made. I spent 3 to 4 months just to refine my pitch deck, where I should be building, building my product, sending it to hospitals, getting some testimonials, getting some client validation, right? I spent big, chunk of my time, on raising money, raising funds, like making a pitch deck, approaching some network, telling them to prepare my pitch deck, pitching them. So in that time, I also lost a lot of focus on my tech. So I lost a lot of the employees who were there in the beginning, because since the focus was missing, so in between many of them were disengaged from the vision. And then after 2 to 3 months, I realized that that's the biggest, like one of the biggest worst decisions I have made in my career, right? Instead of focusing on product, I focused on VC pitching or raising money. So then I had a setback. Then I kind of thought about it, and then it took me again 2 to 4 months to get back to the track. Right? I had to talk to my team. Keep them aligned to overall vision. Hire some new members, and when you hire some new members, they kind of take time to settle down, right? So that kind of pushed me back by 6 months. One big decision that kind of pushed me back by 6 months. I will tell you that was the turning point. That when I took a bad decision and I fall back, and also it's a learning. So we all learn from my mistakes. Right now, I have kind of launching this product, getting the customers, and we'll think of VC, but not now.
Yeah, no, I think that's a great story, because the whole idea of if you're going anywhere, and I also have a private pilot's license, so I've flown for fun for over 30 years, and just the whole idea of course correcting. When you're on this journey, you may not know what obstacles you face or what challenges, but just to have the determination to be willing to course correct and be adaptable. So that's what I'm hearing out of this, instead of just giving up, And have there been times where you felt like you wanted to give up, or were you like, no, I've got this vision and I'm holding strong to it?
Right. Because entrepreneurship is going to be a roller coaster ride. Sometimes you go up, sometimes you go down. Right? So persistence is the key. How you persist, how you do not give up, how when the chips are down, when you motivate yourself. So there's no one to motivate you. People are there, there to just, there won't be anyone. Entrepreneurship is a lonely journey. Right? I'll tell you honestly.
Yeah.
It's you and your co-founder and maybe some of your team, but everyone has their own priorities, right? You are the only one who are driving it, right? So it's not an easy journey. So you have to go up, come down, right? It's also learning for you, right? You learn how to build an aeroplane while from the cliff, right? Falling into the cliff, right? So it's like that, right?
Yeah.
So not that being a corporate employee was just like going to an airport, booking a ticket, and flying on in business class.
Yes.
Entrepreneurship, you go to the cliff and then take a jump from that cliff and build the aeroplane, right?
And figure it out.
That's a kind of that's a different approach, entirely different approach. It's not meant for everyone.
Yeah.
If you're thinking of being a risk-free life, safety net, or some kind of every month you're getting some salary, then you should not be an entrepreneur. It's a different world altogether.
Yeah. And when I've heard that analogy before, entrepreneurs jump off the cliff and they build an airplane on the way down. I've heard that before, and I was thinking that sounds so crazy, but I'm like, it's actually brilliant in a way, because you've got, in one way, you've kind of shut all back doors or all options, which has helped you to really clearly think, okay, I don't have a lot of options here. I'm still heading down. How can I create a solution before I hit the ground. In other words, I've got a timeline, I've got urgency,
Absolutely.
and I'm very clear on what I've got to do. Everything else is a distraction.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so I do love that analogy, and I understand it more now. But yeah, but you're right. There's a certain level of risk tolerance that you have to have in order to do something like that, because that security, like you said, if you're an employee in a corporate situation, then you don't have as much security on that income. But then again, if working at a corporate office or business, working in corporate does give some security, but as a lot of people have found out over the last 10, 20, 30 years, that's not even secure, because you can't guarantee you're going to have that opportunity. Maybe for today, but at a moment's notice, they can stop that and say, hey, we no longer need you at this organization. So in many ways, entrepreneurs who love entrepreneurship look at working as an employee as not security. I was going to say insecurity, but it's not very secure. So it really just depends on.
Especially these days, right? These days, no, it's not even secure. You see, every day you hear a news, any company, everyone is laying off, right?
Yeah.
So even jobs have become so insecure that you got to try. I always tell this. I kind of mentor many students, many college grads. I tell them that don't look for jobs, build something. This is the best time to build something. So you have AI, you have all these things. Just pick up one idea, pick up one problem that really people want to solve, pick up a larger problem, a larger audience, larger market, on those niche, and then you just start building it. That's it. Even I don't think that you need a degree, degrees at all. All those factory-like degrees are outdated. You just build. I mean, and if you can build something, I think your life is secure. That's what I kind of
Yeah, no, I think that's great. And I also came up with just the thought that, entrepreneurship, the security is in the opportunities that you're able to see. And just like you're saying, building and creating something is where it's at. Whereas maybe if you're working in a W-2 situation as an employee, it's not so much you creating things, but it's you supporting what they've already got going on there. I like that idea of building things, and especially at this time and age, because the access we have to knowledge, tools, tech, AI, all of that, we didn't have this 10 years ago.
Absolutely.
And
we didn't have I'll tell you, especially the barriers to tech is broken, right? You go to Claude and you type something, it can build you an app, it can build you the entire architecture within 30 minutes, right? So the barrier to tech that was huge being an entrepreneur, that is entirely broken, right?
Yeah.
Now, this is the right time for everyone to at least try their, I won't say luck, try their life here. Because it's not luck. I'll tell you honestly, entrepreneurship is 99% hard work, 1% luck. Maybe the timing is right, so your startup kicks off, but that timing comes once in a blue moon. But 99% is all about rejections, failure. I'll tell you honestly, the kind of rejections I received in last 1 year, I am not receiving the entire career. Because I'm not used to that, right? I go into an interview, I have 2 offers, and I have to negotiate with one, then I join. So I never had to face rejection, right? Maybe at work sometimes there are some brainstorming, some kind of thing that your plan needs some update, but there is not a rejection, right? Being an entrepreneur tells you how to deal with rejections. Every day there is some rejections. Every day. The 10 emails you send to a client, 10 to a CEO, send to a hospital, 9 gets rejected.
Right.
So that kind of tells you how to be resilient, right? So that kind of makes you a thick skin, I mean, how to survive, right? So try it. I think with the kind of things that are happening right now, I think everyone should try their own entrepreneurial setup this time. That's what I feel.
Yeah, no, this is great. This has been great. Well, thank you so much, Sal, for being on my podcast and for sharing both your app that you're creating some great solutions for healthcare, and also to some of the journey and some of the learning lessons. So thank you so much for being on.
My pleasure, Cory. My pleasure. And if anyone wants to be connected to me, you can just send me an email to salesh@rxgpthealth.com. You can just go to my LinkedIn, DM me. I'm always available to connect, to mentor, to share my knowledge, right? The more you share, the more you grow, right? It's the sharing is learning, sharing is growing, right?
Yes,
I believe
yes.
in, right? So feel free to connect to me. I'd love to help you.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thank
and
you.
You're welcome. You're welcome. And I want to thank you for listening to this episode with Sal and myself, and just all the great information he shared about unapologetic leadership. And some of the things he mentioned were, it's important to be an entrepreneur today, to build and create things. And you're going to learn so many lessons by jumping off that cliff and building that, so to speak, airplane on the way down, especially the learning lessons through rejection. That is huge. Not to take things personally, but to realize those are opportunities for you to create a better widget or tech or business or opportunity to save lives like he's doing in the healthcare system. And also, too, remember that many times we get conviction when things happen personally to us, or our family member, or something happens. But to use that in a healthy way where it becomes a calling, like it did for Sal, and focus on the value that you create for people. And remember, when you're creating an app or anything, don't just focus on the pitch deck and what you're going to share, but focus on getting real, true validations that prove what you're doing is valuable. So thank you again for being here, and we'll see you on the next episode.
Thank you, guys. Bye-bye. Take care.
You're welcome.